Maybe you've said this phrase or thought this phrase multiple times, even in the recent past. Maybe you've thought this phrase about something. Someone should do something about blank. Someone should do something about fill in the blank. Maybe for you it's, man, someone's really got to fix that sign. Somebody's got to really fix that typo in that thing. Like it keeps coming out. It's messed up. It's not right. It's incorrect. Somebody should do something about it. Someone should do something about it. Maybe for you in your job, there's a system that's broken. There's a personnel thing that's off. There's a dynamic that's not quite clicking. And you're like, someone should do something about that. That's not really, maybe it's not my place. Maybe it's not my role, but someone should do something about it. I was thinking about this concept, and I asked my wife, Christy, I said, Christy, when I say this phrase, someone should do something about ... what comes into your mind? And I loved it. She shared this story of one of her friends in college that her roommates, she had about 6 roommates total, and one of their roommates was this culprit of constantly leaving dishes out, leaving one sock in the bathroom after a shower, leaving a laptop open or leaving a TV on or a light on. And maybe you live with one of those kind of people. You know, the shoes are always there, the dishes are always out. If you don't live with them, maybe you are them. So our prayer team's available after the service. Maybe you are that person. If you're kind of looking around, and you're like, what? Maybe that's you today. But she shared about this roommate, and she said, we were always saying this phrase, oh, those dishes, someone's got to do something about that. Our roommate's gone for 2 weeks visiting her boyfriend. Someone should do the dishes. Or somebody's got to pick up that red onion on the counter that's been there for 3 weeks. Someone should do something about it. Have you ever used this phrase? I found that phrase going through my head a lot. Someone should do something about that. Someone should fix that. Someone needs to have that conversation. Someone should do something about it. Someone should fix this thing. Maybe you've thought about it in some funny examples. Maybe you've thought about it in some serious examples. Man, this division, this tension, this separation, this issue that just keeps coming up. Someone should do something about it. Or maybe again, it's in your workplace and it's an injustice, or it's not how it should be. It's not fair. It's not right. Someone should speak into that thing. Someone should bring hope there. Someone should bring a little light there. Someone needs to clarify that. Someone should do something about that. Don't you find some issues today in our world, in our current landscape of culture, and even in our nation? It's like there are some things someone should do something about it. Someone's got to step into that issue and speak life or speak hope. Someone's got to see that thing, see that group of people that are pushed to the side, that are forgotten about in this time, and someone should do something about it. Someone should go to these people that don't have hope. Someone should go to these people that don't have a future ahead of them, and someone should do something about it. Someone should bring change there. Someone should bring hope there. Someone should bring life there. Have you ever found yourself someone should do something about this? We've been in this letter, 1 Peter, the last several weeks together. And those people in this letter that Peter wrote to, these people living in a time that was confusing, was dividing, felt like things were pulling on them and tearing at them, and they're experiencing suffering. And they probably would look at some issues both in their lives and in society as a whole, and would say, someone should do something about that. Someone should step into that. Somebody should fix that. Someone should do something about it. And I just want to look at a portion of that letter with you today. 1 Peter 5, 1 through 5. 1 Peter 5, 1 through 5. And again, the people in this letter are people just like you and just like me. They're people that see brokenness. They're people that see injustice. They're people that see things that could be a certain way that aren't. And they're probably thinking, someone should do something. Some group or some individual should come into that and change that or fix that, heal that, speak to that. And this is what Peter writes to them. This is what Peter writes to these very real, normal people. This is what he writes to them. He says, to the elders among you, I appeal as a fellow elder and a witness of Christ's sufferings who will also share in the glory to be revealed. He goes on. He says to these people, be shepherds of God's flock that is under your care. Be shepherds of God's flock that is under your care. Not because you must, but because you are willing, as God wants you to be. Not pursuing dishonest gain, but eager to serve. Not lording it over those entrusted to you, but by being examples to the flock, by being examples to those around you. Then he uses this flock analogy a little bit further. He says, and then when the chief shepherd appears, you will receive the crown of glory that will never fade away. It's just this idea of Jesus coming, this picture of the chief shepherd, the true shepherd of us. He says, well done. Awesome job. So proud of you. Then he says this, in the same way, you who are younger, submit yourselves to your elders. All of you, clothe yourself with humility toward one another, because God opposes the proud, but shows favor to the humble. There's a lot of good stuff in there. There's a lot of good meat in those couple passages. But I want to take you to 3 words in 1 Peter 5:5. 3 words. It says this, all of you. All of you. Now, I spent a lot of time studying in this passage and just reading different perspectives, reading the original language, reading some of the heart behind Peter's words. And here's what that all of you means. In the original language, in the Greek, in the Hebrew, and all of what they would have heard is this. It means all of you. All of you. And really, all of you means all of us. All of you means all of us. Peter wasn't just writing to that group. He was writing to that group so they could live it out. And the scriptures are actually passed down from years to years to years. And now we get to hear Jesus through the scriptures. So when he says all of you, it means all of us. All of us. And I wonder if those people would have heard Peter's words. And at the same time, they were thinking, someone should do something about these issues. Somebody's got to speak to those things. Somebody's got to change these things in our society. And Peter actually says, no, it's not someone. It's not someone should do that. It's not someone should change that. It's not someone should step in and bring hope or peace or justice there. It's actually this. It's someone's. It's actually someone's. See, Peter knew, and he was helping these people see the change you want to see in the world, the hope you want to see in the world, the perspective, the vision you want to see in the world. It's probably not going to just come through one person. It's probably not just going to come through some Superman, right? Clark Kent or Spider-Man or the Avengers, right? They come in and fix everything and it's all good. It's not a someone, it's a someone's. And like he says in 5:5, he says the someone's it's all of you. All of you, it's all of us. Peter's helping them to see, what if you're the answer to the brokenness you see in the world? Peter's helping them to see, what if you're the someones? What if you're not just the some person that's waiting for the someone to come in, but what if you're the someones for the issue that you see? It's all of us, all of you. And really when he says all of you, he's talking about this thing called the church. He's talking about this thing called the church. And Jesus used this phrase, the church, my church. Jesus said, the people that I'd call to me and then send from me, the church, the called ones, the sent ones, the called people, the church. And the scriptures use all these different images for the church, the body of Christ, the bride of Christ, the people of God, the priesthood of God. Really, the church is Jesus' extension of himself to the earth. He says, it's not just someone should do something about someone's, and I've created the someone's, and it's called my church. And I've given my church to the world to be a source of hope, to be a source of light, to be a source of perspective. someone should do something about it. It's the church, and the church carries this purpose, this direction of being Jesus' extension to the world, being Jesus' embodiment to the world, being Jesus' people who are sent to the world, sent to your sphere, sent to your school, sent to your church, sent to your community. And here's the reality. Here's the reality. It's this, that the church living in all it was created to be means and needs you and I living in all we were created to be. For the church to be the someones, for the church to be the people who go to that issue, to go to that place of brokenness, go to that place of hopelessness, and be all we were created to be means you and I living in all we were created to be. Because we know that the church is not the building. The church is not any one or two or three people. The church is us. It's the people. And the church being and living all it was created to be means you and me living, discovering, uncovering, unpacking all we were created to be. Now, for some of us, maybe you're trying to get your head around that. It's like, well, I thought just the church was something I go to. Thought church was just something I went to on Sundays. Thought church was just something I attended. Maybe for some of us today, Jesus would just want to say, no, church is not something you go to. Church is something you are. You are my people right here, right now. I don't care necessarily what's in your past. I don't care what you've come from. But I call you my church. I call you my people. The church living in all it's created to be means you and I stepping into, believing that there's something more that we were created to be. And there's a couple realizations. There's maybe a couple mindset shifts that maybe we just need to put on the table this morning and just say, this is what's true. Based on what Jesus said is true, based on what Peter's saying here, here's what's true. The first is this, that you're invited. You're invited. Notice what Peter said, right? 1 Peter 5:5, he says this, not one of you, not a couple pastors, not the worship team. He said all of you. All of you. When he writes about this shepherding, this leading, this being this overseer of people that are under your care, he's not just talking about one specific group of people. He's saying, all of you, you're invited. You are invited. You're invited into the church becoming and being all it was created to be. You're invited into the church being the hope in the hopelessness. You're invited to the church being the salt and light, like Jesus said. You're invited. And you're not just invited to sit on the sidelines. You're not just invited to sit on the bench and watch the starting lineup play. You're invited because of this, because you're gifted. Jesus invites you because he's gifted you. He invites you because you have something to contribute. He invites you because you have something to offer those around you. He invites you because he's already gifted you. Ephesians 2:10 says this, for we are God's workmanship, created in Christ Jesus to do good things, to contribute good to the world, to step in and walk in good things, which he had planned for us long ago. Before you even chose Jesus, he already gifted you. You're gifted. You're invited and you're gifted. The Apostle Paul wrote this letter in 1 Corinthians to a people in a city called Corinth, and he's unpacking these spiritual gifts, this idea of people being gifted. He says this, God's various gifts are handed out everywhere, but they all have this origin in God's Spirit. God's various ministries are carried out everywhere, but they originate in God's Spirit. He goes on. God's various expressions of power are in action everywhere, but God himself is behind it all. He says this, each person is given something to do that shows who God is. Everyone gets in on it, and everyone benefits. all kinds of things are handed out by the Spirit into all kinds of people. Aren't you grateful for that? It's not just the cool ones, not just the trendy one. It's all kinds of people. Quirks, idiosyncrasies, and all kinds of people. The variety is wonderful. Paul would also use this image of, it's like the body. Like you can't all be a hand. You can't all be a foot. You can't all be a kneecap, a tendon. It's the body. There's diversity, there's variety, and it's wonderful. But look what he says here. He says this, each person is given something. Given something. It's a gift. Something to do that, here's the purpose, shows who God is. So simple, so powerful. Each person is given something to do, given a part to play, something to contribute that not just for the sake of pride or for the sake of doing it, but shows who God is. And really what Paul's getting at is this idea of spiritual gifts. Now, depending on your exposure to church, your history in church, maybe when I say those two words, spiritual gifts, you have a lot of memories come into your mind. Let's just unpack those for a little bit. What are the spiritual gifts? What does he mean, spiritual gifts? What is given to us, and why do we have them? Like Paul said, it's to do something. It's to contribute something that shows who God is. I just want to put a list in front of you of 22 gifts throughout the New Testament, throughout the scriptures that unpack some of these things that are given. This is not an exhaustive list. There are probably more or different lists, different categories of these that people would divide them into. But here's a broad sweeping list. Here's a general list of 22 gifts. And maybe just glance at that for a second. 22 gifts. All kinds of different gifts. All kinds of variety. Let's just unpack one of those together. Let's unpack this gift of hospitality. Let's just look at this. Hospitality, this is one definition. Hospitality, the gift of hospitality is this, the distinctive ability, don't miss that phrase, the distinctive ability to make people feel at home, welcomed, cared for, and part of the group. And maybe even as I read that, or maybe as we show that list, some of those resonate, and there's a little bit of curiosity, or there's a little bit of resonance there for you, and it's maybe that's you, maybe that's a gift you may have, a gift you may be walking in. I have that ability. I have that innate, natural, effective ability to just make people feel at home, to create a space for people to feel welcome, cared for, a part of the group. Again, that's a list of 22. Here's what's true, though. Look at this number. Look at that number. 7 out of 22. If you got that on a test, it's not a great score. If that's your, batting average, if that's your home run average, you're probably not great. If that's your, shots made, shots taken, that's not great. Here's what that 7 out of 22 represents. Oftentimes, in church, videos you watch on YouTube, podcasts you listen to, stories you hear, small groups you're a part of, teams you're on, this is what happens. We look at these 7 gifts, 7 out of 22, and they're meaningful, they're needed, they're significant, but they're not the whole story. And we look at 7 out of 22 gifts, and we say, those are the spiritual gifts. Those are the Titan gifts. Those are the ones that matter. Those are the ones that make a difference. The dynamic is a lot of these are more upfront. A lot of these are more prominent gifts we may understand going to church or listening to things online or watching things online. But here's the reality. It's only 7 out of 22. And there's probably lots of us that would say, I don't want any of those. I don't want to be up front. I don't want to speak the words. I don't want to lead the people. I want to support. I want to be a part. I want to help. But oftentimes we just say there's 7 out of 22 gifts. And if I don't have one of these, I guess I'm not gifted. Guess I'm not gifted. But you're gifted. You're invited because you're gifted. You have gifts. You have something to offer. You have a distinctive ability in something. And we're invited and we participate with Jesus and in his church, being the someones who do something about it because we have a gift, because we have something to offer. We have something to offer to the church, to the people around us, to the community we're in, to the family we're in. And it's because of this reality that you have influence. You have influence. Your life has a ripple effect. Stop and think about that for a second. Right here, right now, in this season, right where you are, your life is having a ripple effect. Your attitude is having a ripple effect. Your presence here this morning is having a ripple effect. Your life has a ripple effect. You have influence. You have this effect on people around you. You have this ability to change for the good or for the worse. The circumstance, the environments, the spheres you're in. You have influence. I love what this author and pastor Steve Deneff says it so profoundly here. He says this thing of influence and this thing of being available and responsive to where you are. He says, just start where you are. Start where you are. A lot of times we overthink this idea of influence. He says, start where you are. Then ask these 2 questions. What can you do? What can you do to improve the spiritual climate, the spiritual temperature of places where you have influence, where you're able to affect others? And he goes on, who in your field of vision needs a shepherd? Who in your field of vision, who in your sphere, who in your influence needs a shepherd? Who in your field of vision needs someone to just come alongside them and breathe a little hope to them? Who in your sphere of influence, who in your vision needs somebody just to give them a little encouragement, to give them a little hope for the future, to give them a listening ear, to be patient and quiet and listen to them? Who in your field of vision needs a shepherd by the way you just be generous to somebody? What can you do to improve, to raise the spiritual climate of places where you have influence? And then who in your field of vision, just right around you, right where you already are, who in your field of vision needs a shepherd? You're invited to be a part of the someones who are doing something in the world. The someones who get to partner with what God is up to bring hope, to bring his kingdom, to bring restoration, to bring justice, to bring peace to the world, to bring light to the world. And you're invited because you have a gift. You have something to contribute. And with that gift, you have influence. You have an influence through hospitality. You have an influence by your ability to organize things or systems or people. You have influence in the way you're able to rally people and lead them towards something. You have influence. And I love what Peter says this in verse 2 and 3. He says, just capitalize, make the most on that influence, not because you have to, but because you get to. Because it's an opportunity, it's not an obligation. Just partner with what God wants to do and influence others, not because you have to, but because you get to. Not for what you can gain, but what can you give? What can you give of yourself to add value to people? What can you extend from yourself and say, here's my experience, here's my wounds, here's my healing. I'm just gonna add that to you. I'm just gonna give that to you. I'm just gonna try to add value to your life. Not what you can gain for what you can give, don't lead, don't try to influence to be first, but to go first, to set the example, to set the pace, to set the culture, to set the climate. Not because you have to, this obligation, but because you get to. Not for what you can gain, but what you can give, and not Not to be first, to try to prove something, to try to be out there and be on the spotlight, but to go first. Say, I'll encourage that person. I'll speak a word of blessing. I'll offer to pray for that person. I'll offer to meet that need. I'm going to go first. I'm going to go first. Because Peter says, it's all of you. It's all of us. It's all of us being the someones, doing the something in the world. You fill in that blank where you see it, the gap you see, the thing you think the church should be in the world. That's all of us. Not on an organization or on a specific individual, but Jesus says, you are the hope of the world. You are the plan A. All of us. This reminds me a little bit of Michael Jordan, MJ, number 23, Michael Jordan. And I was born in the mid-'90s, and that was when the height of MJ's career. And I was a big fan as I grew up. I obviously missed the era a little bit from the timing, but I loved MJ, and I love the story of MJ. And maybe if you have seen the documentary The Last Dance, you would know a little bit more of the backstory of MJ's career and MJ, his success in the NBA and his story. But it makes me think of MJ and the significance of what he did in the league, the significance of what he brought to the NBA and to the Bulls organization, championship after championship after championship, rings. And a lot of people would say MJ is the best player to ever live, best NBA player to ever live, Michael Jordan. And here's a picture of him in the 96 playoffs. Michael Jordan, shoes named after him, T-shirts, franchise, all that stuff. But what this recent documentary, The Last Dance, unpacked and helped a lot of us see was that for MJ to be MJ, he needed some other people. He needed some other people. And here's the starting lineup for much of that 95-96 season. You have Ron Harper, MJ, Scottie Pippen, where a lot of people say, there's no MJ without a Pippen. There's Dennis Rodman, this kind of crazy, fanatic, defensive rebounder personality, and then Luke Longley in the center. There's a couple of people who would trade out in that starting lineup, but there's no MJ without a team. MJ just didn't take on people 1 versus 5. No, it was 5 on 5. He had a coach, Phil Jackson. He had an organization that believed in them, that structured the team in such a way that MJ could flourish. And here's the thing. MJ made all these guys better, and all these guys made MJ better. See, MJ couldn't run down the court and do a slam dunk if Rodman wouldn't have got the rebound. MJ couldn't be open for the corner three if Pippen didn't give him the assist, or Pippen wasn't down low clearing space, if Longley didn't get the rebound, if Harper didn't make the pass, if Harper didn't make the shot one sequence earlier. There's no MJ without the team. Here's what a lot of us think, and here's what a lot of us can be tempted to do. We look at a pastor, we look at a podcaster, we look at a YouTube channel, we look at a church, and we see the MJ Christian. Oh, the pastor's the one who does the spiritual slam dunk. The pastor's the one that when time comes, he's going to hit that corner three with the sermon. It's going to be bang on. They're going to win the championship. And it's on the pastor. It's on the small group leader to make that defensive play. It's on the small group leader to carry that team. It's on the small group leader or the ministry team leader to make it happen. They're like the MJ. And there's no MJ without the team. And in the church, it's not just about the MJs. It's about the Bulls. It's about the starting lineup. It's about the team. It's about each person bringing their gift. Each person realizing, wow, I'm invited on the floor. I'm invited to play. Get in the game. Because I have a gift. I have something to offer. I'm like Rodman. I can rebound. I can play a little defense, throw some elbows. I'm Pippen. I can get down. I can hit a mid jumper. I can do that. I can get a rebound or make a pass like Longley. I have something to offer. It's all of us. And here's the reality: the church, living in all it was created to be, means you and I living in all we were created to be. It's not just about being the Michael Jordan Christian, the superstar Christian, whoever you would kind of say, they're the real Christian. They're the ones who really matter. But it's all of us saying, I'm invited. And I'm gifted. I have something to contribute, and I have a place of influence where I can exercise that gift, where I can contribute that gift, not just because what I can get, but what I can give. And you're invited, you're gifted, and you have influence. We're invited, we are gifted, we have influence. I want to ask you just 3 questions today. 3 questions. Here they are. What are you doing with the invitation? Right now, a time and a place in culture where we need people, we need someone stepping into the issue, not just to say someone should sweep in and fix that. We need someone stepping into those spaces. And Jesus says, actually, I've invited you to be that. What are you doing with the invitation? And as a part of that, how are you uncovering and using your gifts? How are you, just like the Bulls starting lineup, how are you bringing what you have to the table? How are you bringing your skills, your abilities, your distinctive ability to do a certain thing? How are you bringing that to the table and adding value to the places you are? And then this, where is your place of influence? Where is that place for you? Where is your place of being able to affect people? Where's your place of being able to move people and encourage people and speak into people and develop people and be an influence there? What are you doing with the invitation today? How are you uncovering and discovering and growing in and using your gifts? And then where's your place of influence? Where's your place of influence?